Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be putting the Holley Super Sniper 1250 on this 1974 Chevy C10 pickup. This is the Super Sniper 8 injector, 1250 horsepower, capable module. It does include the USB cable, which I read mixed reviews on. Some said it did come with it, some said it didn't. Okay, so the first step is going to be getting this old carburetor disconnected and removed. I've unbolted the carburetor and removed it. I've also took the cap off the distributor. I took all the spark plugs out and got the crank sitting at top dead center on number 1 cylinder. You can see the rotor is pointed towards number 1 cylinder. So now I'm going to take that distributor out and then I'm going to put in the Hyperspark Holley distributor. Here's the Hyperspark distributor. Doesn't have any advance on it, and it also uses a Hall effect sensor. So I'm going to get this dropped in, get the rotor pointing at cylinder 1. Then I'm going to install the clear cap so it'll phase the distributor. Got the gasket on already here. Now I'm going to lube up the gear with the supplied lube and then drop it in. Okay, so now it doesn't seem like the oil pump is lined up with the bottom of the gear. So I'm gonna have to twist the oil pump a little bit with a screwdriver. Now that dropped right down on, but I'm not pointing at cylinder 1, so I'm gonna have to pull it back out and try to twist it a little bit. Got the distributor in, it's pointing to the number 1 cylinder here. I had to change the oil pump direction of the shaft a little bit to get it to sit down in there. Now I'm going to put the clear cap over it to phase the distributor and then tighten everything down. So now that I got that phased and clocked on there right, I'm going to put the hold down clamp on. And then there's a little notch on the side to mark with a Sharpie so you know where the number 1 cylinder is on the cap. So now I'm just going to mark with a Sharpie on the side of the cap where the little notch is. Get the cap on and then get our plugs and wires back on. I just have the Sniper just sitting on the intake, nothing's bolted down yet. The distributor is all finished, it's done being bolted in. I just have to mount the coil, mount the CD box for the ignition, and I have to swap the fuel lines inlets around on here and get the regulator set up. Got the fuel pressure regulator mounted. Got the CD box mounted, and I'm working on getting the fuel lines ran to the fuel pressure regulator and ran along the frame from the tank. Ideally, I'd like to have had a 90 on the front of there, but I ended up not ordering any, so this will have to do for now until I can get some 90s in. Okay, so one other thing I found out is this is a 1974 C10 pickup, but if you get a 1987 gas tank here, it has the internal baffle in it. This I think was like $99. And then I got the same fuel sender unit for here, which already includes a pump. It's not strong enough for what I'm doing, but I'm going to swap the pump out, and then this will drop right down into the tank. This is a lot cheaper option rather than buying a EFI tank. This here is a 340 liter per hour pump. The only thing different with the 1987 fuel tank is that the inlet is actually larger than on the 1974, so I'm going to just have to cut this off and then weld on a smaller piece of tube. Okay, so I have the pump taken off. So what I'm going to do at this time, so I'm going to cut the little flare off of each of these, and then I got 6AN compression fittings to put over the tube. So there's just a little ferrule. You slip the back piece on, then slip this over, and then tighten it up, and it creates a compression fitting on the tube. Okay, so everything's cut, deburred, cleaned. So now we'll put these fittings on. Take this, slide this on first. Take your ferrule, slide it on, and then finally this piece. Then we'll just tighten that down, and then that'll make a compression fit on the tube, and then we'll be good to go. Okay, so here's the fuel pump all fitted up. What I had to do was I ended up cutting the wiring and soldering the ground up here to this connector, put some heat shrink on it, and then I also made a solder connection here in the center for the power wire. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put heat shrink on that, and then I'm going to cut this piece of hose that came with the kit. I'm going to cut it in half. I already got these clamps on here before I soldered that, so I'm going to cut this piece of tubing in half, slip it over the wire, and then put the clamps on there. So that'll give one more added protection. So in case the gas would eat away this heat shrink, I know it's not going to eat away this tubing because it's made for being in gas. Okay, so here's what it looks like. Inside here is a soldered connection, has heat shrink on it. It's probably way overkill, but I didn't want to have any fuel pump issues with that shorting out or sparking or something like that. So that little bit of rubber hose will be extra insurance to make sure that that stays insulated. truck all jacked up, tank's out. Like I said, I'm gonna have to cut this off here and weld on a smaller piece of tube. Fuel tank is out, the hangers are off. I'm gonna be cutting the tubes off the new tank and welding on the 1 3/8 and the 1/2 inch tubes. Okay, so one thing to mention here is, I didn't know this before I cut these, but these fittings were actually, these tubes were actually brazed on there. You could see the gold color braze. So what I had to do was, you can't weld something that's already has braze on it. So I had to make these discs here that will actually be welded past where it's brazed at, so I can actually get a good weld and seal on these. So this tube here is going to actually stick down in there. Okay, so here's what it looks like with the new tubes welded on. Matches the old tank. I'm going to get the bands on the new tank and get it fitted up in place. Get the lines connected, and then I could finish the electrical on this. Okay, the tank's in. The tank is wired. The sending unit's wired. I started running some of the wiring just loosely in the engine bay. Right now I'm drilling the O2 sensor. I'm using the clamp on that came with the kit. I'll end up using a different one whenever I put the turbo on. I'm going to clean that little burr off there, and then put some anti-seize on this oxygen sensor, get it in, and then get it wired up. Okay, the O2 sensor is in. This looks absolutely horrible. It's not going to stay like this. I just have to get this thing out of the garage tonight. I'm going to spend probably another couple days just tidying up all the wires. Going to check everything for fuel leaks. I'm going to set the fuel pressure regulator and then see if we can get this thing to fire up. First time trying to start it after the distributor's been out. Whole entire fuel system's been redone and the Super Sniper's put on. See what it does. That fired right up. Literally so pumped. That was literally the first try. I didn't start it yet. 2 days of solid hard work. Thing fired right up. So responsive too. that's gonna wrap up this video. So if you like this video, hit the like and subscribe button, and I'll catch you next time. Later.